Type Podcast Studios.
Hello and welcome back to the second episode of Asset Conversations. I'm Tom and I'm joined again by my business partner and wife, Denise. Hello, Denise.
Hi, Tom. Morning, everyone. I can't actually believe we're here on our second episode of our podcast.
Have you recovered from the first episode?
Only just, but feeling a little bit more in control this morning.
Can I ask, and it is a bit of a loaded question, has our alcohol intake gone up since we agreed to do these things?
I'd say substantially, yes.
I would agree. I'm never really a brandy drinker, but that has been on the agenda. How are you feeling today with the second one?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling more calm today and excited to invite our first guest onto the programme.
And you took the words out my mouth, because we have our special guest, our first guest on our season. We have got someone by the name of Mr. John Hewitt, one of the finest training consultants I've ever come across. Couldn't make it today, so John stepped in at the last minute and agreed to do this for us. I jest, John. I jest.
I'm always good to be standing. I'm happy to be standing.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
First off, thank you for inviting me on to the podcast. It's a delight to be here. So my background, Tom, is a blend of both leadership and marketing. So I've delivered for the Chartered Institute of Marketing, but also delivered for the Institute of Leadership and Management and the Chartered Management Institute, and also latterly held the position of marketing and MPD director for a global pet food brand. So now I'm out kind of delivering training, but that training comes from a place of, theory, but also experience of leading multi-discipline teams. So I led the marketing team, nutrition, R&D projects as well, and a team of 50 in total. So, what I'm finding now is I'm working with smaller organisations as well, and that brings another layer of experience then as well, and a slightly different take on leadership once again. So, I'm really enjoying being out there at the moment and kind of making a difference to different businesses.
This is great for me because it's rare I get the opportunity to actually speak to a fellow consultant. I'm trying to work out what the collective noun would be for a group of training consultants.
A collective noun, a troop maybe. I don't know. Troop. Do you like that one?
a synergy of training consultants.
Synergy is probably better than troop.
A deliverable of training consultants.
There you go.
I think we get a bad press. Do you think we get a bit of a bad press?
As consultants?
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
Somebody once said to me, think about the word consultant and look at the first three letters.
Okay. Harsh, I think.
Harsh.
I think it's interesting is that what I find is going into organisations, often people spend a lot of time in the business, and that's from the top leadership teams through to middle management as well, and they spend so much time in the business, it's very often difficult to spend time on the business and to take a little bit of a more distant view, if you like, a kind of a helicopter view of the business. And I think where I see we can add value is by going in and speaking to businesses, and then by asking the right questions, and that's the crucial thing, and that the consultants do really, really well, is ask kind of some quite pertinent questions, really, which get people thinking. And I think sometimes you can be so much into the business that when somebody external comes along and asks, sometimes it's quite a simple question, but it kind of gets people to set up and think, oh, yeah, actually, I've never thought about it like that. Yeah. Or why do we do it like that? Or we've always done it like that. But also, I think the advantage that we have is that because we go into lots of different businesses and we've worked in different businesses, I think often coming from outside the sector also helps, because when people are so embedded within a certain sector, they don't realise that different organisations from different sectors do things in different ways. And what I found really beneficial when I used to deliver in classrooms is that when you'd have public sector and private sector, amazing, because those people who've always worked in the public sector are often blown, what, you do that in the private? How on earth do you afford that? And you incentivise it, how do you manage to... And then likewise, flip from a private sector, what you get those benefits in public, and so on and so forth. And I think for me, if you can bring different businesses together like that, it's so beneficial.
Yeah.
So beneficial.
Eye-opening, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because there is a big difference between the public and the private. We touched on that last week, didn't we?
Absolutely. And I think, so consultancy can take on many different guises, can't it, ultimately? But I think for me, if you ask the right sort of questions, then we can start to deliver the right sort of benefits for the business.
You're definitely talking my language. I actually prepared something,
right?
Knowing that you were coming along here today.
I didn't doubt you would.
Well, obviously I knew you were coming along. I invited him. And I got a few quotes about what some people have said about consultants, and I want to distance myself from these, and I'm sure you will as well.
Okay.
I've heard over the years consultancy, an expert who tells you what you already know in PowerPoint form.
Yeah. Okay.
Someone who can make the obvious sound expensive. A person who finds problems you didn't know you had and bills you to sort them out. I absolutely disassociate and refute all of those different phrases, and I agree. And something that you sort of said under your breath, and it's something we put a lot of credence on in our company in terms of the type of consultants that we take on board, which of course you are one. You said very early on, you don't just train people in the areas that you provide training in. You've actually done the things that you train people in. You've got that lived experience, and whilst my tongue is in my cheek with some of these quotes, I think there are a lot of consultants out there that maybe haven't done the actual thing that they're training people in. I
think for me that comes, the key word there is credibility. I think, if we can walk the walk and talk the talk, then actually your credibility goes up. And I go back to many years ago where I was a high school teacher, and then into college. And I used to deliver business and marketing to 16 to 18-year-olds. And for me, my experience, it's quite vast really in terms of the organisations I've worked for. So I've worked for Nike and Adidas, and I worked at Nike over in the European headquarters. So when you're talking to a 16 and 18-year-old about marketing, and then you throw in, actually, when I was at Nike, we did this campaign, or we had Eric Cantona who came in and he gave, then all of a sudden people are listening and the credibility goes up. I think it's exactly the same in the workplace as well, when you go in and you share anecdotes, you share examples, and you talk about how you managed to solve that problem. And like I said before, the training what I deliver at the moment, I deliver some of that online, and you bring the public and the private together, and then you throw your own anecdotes and your own lived experiences. It generates some really, really good conversations. You met Eric Cantona? Sorry, yes, I did, yeah.
Tall, isn't he?
Relatively tall.
I met him once at a business event at night, and very, very tall. Very, very tall guy. I'm quite tall. He was huge.
Yeah, well, yeah. I suppose that nailed him to do the karate kick, didn't it?
Indeed. I'm smiling. We do a lot of presentation skills work.
Yes.
And at the beginning of a course, you'll ask people, what experience of presenting do you have? And I've had some people that have said to me, very limited, all I've really presented to are school kids. And you think, all you've presented to are school kids? I tell you, give me a whole day with adults compared to going into schools to present for an hour. It's hard going. So I admire you, John.
It is tough. And I remember when I first started out as a high school teacher, you used to rely on PowerPoint a lot, and you planned your lesson to the last second. And obviously, as you become more confident, actually, sometimes, you perhaps just go in with a pen and a whiteboard, and then you start up and we're talking. And what I learned very quickly was actually the best way to engage people is to ask questions. And not leave anybody off the hook. And I think that was one thing I learned as well pretty quickly, that if you keep people on the hook, it keeps their attention.
Yeah.
And the skill is then to take one person answer and say, that's really good. What do you think about that? And that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't you say that?
Yeah.
And actually,
Yeah.
and of course, that I recently delivered for you guys over in Yorkshire.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly that. So they were talking about a certain situation, a certain circumstance, and they all had different thoughts and they all had different experiences, or rather sometimes the same experience, but different takeaways from it.
Yeah.
So it was a really fantastic opportunity to say therapy almost, because like you communicated in that. How did that make you feel?
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. How did you communicate that to your team? And by doing that, I think we use the word facilitator, don't we? And I think as trainers, sometimes it is about facilitating as much as it is about imparting knowledge. And you know, I've said to you in the past, Tom, as well, I'm a big believer in using theory. And the reason I say that is because it gives you a kind of a crux almost. And the theory gets a little bit of bad rap, really, because I think people say, oh, yeah, but that came out in 1940, that theory, or that was from 1950. I hear that, but actually, if you use that theory as the crux, then you can create lots of really, really powerful conversations off the back of that. And for me, that's where the word facilitator comes in.
It's interesting. You mentioned the word therapy. I'm finding it therapeutic even at this stage, talking to a fellow trainer. I know, Denise, you feel the same way when you talk to people in your field. You don't really appreciate somebody's job unless you've actually done it at the sharp end. We are very much focusing in this first season in the whole area of leadership.
Yeah.
And a bit like yourself, I travel about a bit. And people constantly say to me, leadership, management, it's all common sense. I think what's probably kept us in a job all these years is the fact there's an awful lot of leaders out there that don't seem to exhibit a lot of common sense. And I have picked up some horrific stories over the years in terms of leadership behaviours. What have you encountered yourself on your journey?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, isn't it, when you talk about common sense? I think it's such a well-trodden tale, isn't it, that maybe your best engineer or your best salesperson or your best operator, they're really good. So let's make them into the manager or let's put them as team leader. And guess what? They absolutely struggle in that role. Yeah. Not because they're incompetent, not because they're not capable, but because actually they've not had any training. Just because they're a really good engineer doesn't mean that they can lead people. And it's a whole different skill set. And I think I've sat in boardrooms where people have made that decision. He's really good at X, let's make him in the manager. Yeah. And I sit there and I think, unless you're going to give him the training to do that, that's a completely different skill set. And people are sometimes surprised. I told them to do it. Why are they not doing it? Guess what? Management and leadership isn't that easy. Just asking somebody to do something, guess what? They're not always going to do it.
Yeah.
And then it's about relationships. It's about role model behaviour. It's about communication. It's about making sure people are aligned. And you talk about common sense, but if you're a really good engineer, you've just not been trained in that way. So in terms of some of the tales I've seen, I think I've seen at board level as well, where perhaps people are not as aware of how their mood perhaps or their mannerisms impact the team. Yeah. And I think as leaders, the word consistency is really important. Yeah. And if you're one morning in a really bad mood, next morning in a really good mood, or inconsistent about how you treat people or your expectations of people, guess what? People are going to find that really difficult. Yeah. And I think for me, that's where the best leaders shine through. They're consistent. Yeah. They understand people. They build relationships. They're empathetic. Yeah. And I think that emotional intelligence, it gets bandied around, and some people kind of see it as airy-fairy or fluffy, if you like. But for me, it's the first role. It's the first rule of leadership is to be empathetic, isn't it? Really?
I completely endorse what you've said. And in our second season, I think we will be revisiting some of the areas pertaining to emotional intelligence, because you're right, it does sound a bit highfalutin, but acquiring good emotional intelligence, I think, is a fantastic thing to have in life, as well as if you're in a leadership position. You were talking about boardrooms. I mean, I do recall being a guest at a board meeting in an oil company, and it was a stereotypical board meeting. People in their 40s and 50s in suits, very mature, very, very clever people. And I sat there as a guest, and the managing director absolutely bollocked the finance director in front of the whole board. And I sat there and I thought, that can't be right. But maybe that's what they do in the oil industry. But it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't. When you saw the reaction, clearly it was terrible for the finance director, but it was dreadful for the rest of the board as well.
Heads go down, don't they?
And the interesting thing was, it didn't do the MD any favours. So you think, wouldn't it be common sense not to do that? But people do it.
Yeah, it's that parent and child kind of thing there, isn't it? You know, the kind of the finance director, and I've seen something similar, and the finance director kind of shrivels a little bit, and then everyone else's head goes down, and it's a strange sort of environment, isn't it?
You had I remember you giving me an example a few years ago from your world, Denise, many years ago, that senior manager.
Yeah, how not to do performance appraisals.
Oh yeah.
It was more than a few years ago. It was when I just started in the world of work and quite junior. And we had these things called annual reviews and staff performance appraisals. And it was an opportunity for us to have a one-to-one with our manager and to get some feedback on how we were doing, how we were performing. And at the end of it, we were going to be given a rating, and it could be underperforming, which obviously nobody wanted. It could be meeting expectations, or it could be exceeding expectations. And so it was one day in April, and we were all sort of waiting to be called in this big open plan office, secretly all hoping we were going to get an exceeding expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And having to be indulged for half an hour with our manager to talk about ourselves. And all of a sudden, the manager's door opened, because it was normally closed, but it opened and he came out and said, can I have everybody's attention? You've all got meeting expectations. Thank you.
And good night.
That was the end of our performance reviews.
There's no ambiguity, I suppose, was there?
Whatever you wanted to keep staff motivated and make them feel valued.
Constructive feedback.
I told you about the best manager, the best leader I ever had, and he was very tongue-in-cheek. But his appraisal was, we had a team meeting one day, and he said, I might as well get the appraisals out the way. And he stood up and he went, like you, don't like you, don't like you, thank you. And he sat there. I presume he was tongue-in-cheek, but I think he was. You know, again, some of these things. I mean, common sense. Why would you do that?
It's amazing, isn't it? That door shut thing as well, though.
It does shut. Yeah, I'm not approachable. I'm not part of the team, kind of thing.
Yeah. And that is,
the messages it sends out. That's
it, isn't it? That's it.
Yeah.
And you can get a litmus test on companies. I mean, for example, feedback. I very rarely hear people say we need to improve the levels of feedback in our company, but they do say things like, the only time I see my boss is when there's trouble.
Yeah.
I don't mind getting a bollocking, but it would be nice to get a pat in the back, a little bit of praise. You know, but people are crying out for stuff like that. Yeah. And I'm sure the people we are speaking about in leadership positions, they wouldn't want to be treated in that way, but there's almost a blind spot for a lot of them.
And it's amazing, isn't it? You know, we talk about praise, and I go back to high school, and you know, children want praise, they want recognition, they want reward. But guess what? Adults also want that as well.
100%.
Yeah, and actually they want to know that they're doing a good job and to be acknowledged for doing a good job as well.
Yeah.
And therefore, when perhaps they're not meeting expectations, they're more open to hearing that constructive feedback, aren't they?
Absolutely.
You know, it's that level play. It's that back to that consistency as from a leader. And I think I talk a lot about role modelling behaviour as well. And I think we talk about trust in leadership, and your team are watching you all the time, so you can build trust by being consistent, by managing expectations, by communicating effectively. But trust can be lost really quickly as well.
Yeah.
And that's from the opposite of being consistent, isn't it? It's about that being inconsistent. It's about not treating people fairly or by not... And actually that can diminish. But it's amazing, again, we talk about role modelling, the door being shut.
Yeah.
your team are looking at you all the time, and they're looking at the cues, whether that's for the non-verbal or the way in which you're communicating, or the words that you're saying, the behaviours that you're displaying. You can't ask people to be on time if you're consistently late. Well, you can, but if you're consistently late, it doesn't. I go back to when I was a high school teacher. The teacher used to work. Used to go in the classroom sometimes, and it used to kick the door open to the classroom, throw the paper on the desk, and roll at the kids before it even started.
Yeah.
And I know, and I think that was motivating. And then also not mark up the work on time, but then give them an absolute, rollicking for handing in late.
Yeah.
And as soon as that psychological contract, that trust is gone, hasn't it?
It comes back to leading by example.
Yeah, role modelling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's difficult as a leader because you're carrying a lot there.
Yeah.
And you're being watched all the time. But that's ultimately how I see the role of leadership.
Yeah.
We said in our first episode, Denise is from a family of teachers, I'm from a family of teachers, and you automatically think, and we're maybe biased, but I do regard your side of the family, my side of the family, as really great teachers.
Yeah. Okay.
We tend to forget there are some bad teachers out there, or teachers that are unaware of their behaviour.
So I go back to that empathy and that emotional intelligence, and recognising that actually you acting in that way, guess what? You're not going to get the best response from them.
Yeah.
But and you've got to appreciate as well, we go back to the human iceberg, people when they come into work, some people are carrying lots of weight from their own lives, aren't they?
100%. You don't know what people are dealing with.
You don't know what people
lives.
And actually when they come into work, you expect them to be, you expect the team to be a dynamic team. You expect them all to work together, to all communicate well, to all be kind of hitting the high performance.
Yep.
But you've got to take a step back sometimes and think, well, wait a minute. Sometimes you're working with a team of different age groups.
Yeah.
So again, they're going to approach work in a slightly different way. Perhaps different social backgrounds, cultural backgrounds.
100%, yeah.
And then you put them all into this place called a workplace, and you expect it to be high performing.
Yeah.
And guess what? That's not always how it works. So I think that go back to the role of a leader there, to be able to recognise that actually within his or her team, he has got different personalities.
Yeah.
He has got people who are dealing with different things. And if you can take the time out to have a one-to-one with somebody in that team who you see is struggling, that goes a long way. I remember delivering training for a very macho culture, really. It was a manufacturing site. And we were doing team leader training. We would talk about communication and talk about setting expectations. And one of the guys there is, my team, this guy is so lazy. He's this, he's that, he's the other. And I'd say to him, have you ever had just like 5 minutes with him and spoke to him and asked him perhaps why he's not performing at the level? Oh, no, he's just lazy. He's useless. I was like, well, maybe just trying to. Anyway, so a month or so goes by and I'm on the shop floor just observing. And he said, John, have you got a minute? He came over. He said, you know what? He said, you know that guy that was starting? I said, yeah. He said, he's really struggling at home. He said he's having a problem with his wife's leaving him. He's gonna, his kids are gonna. And he said I had that 5 minutes brew with him, and he said he broke down. He said he was in tears. I was like, wow. But he said, you know what, John? He said he's performing now. He's I was like, so you're back to that thing about common sense.
Intuition.
That's a big thing. Intuition,
I don't think that's what a lot of leaders realise. I say it all the time in our leadership programme. It doesn't fit into any particular part of the programme, but I do say to people in any leadership position, chief exec, first line supervisor, do not underestimate the impact and influence you have over your people for the good or for the bad. And I don't think people do realise that. They look at themselves and sort of feel, it's just little old me. I don't have any great influence, but they have massive influence, highlighted by some of the things that you've said. I think there's a lot of demands on leaders. I think they go back to, you like your theory, the old John Adair. They're very task orientated, which I understand. There's a lot of demands on us to achieve or get the job done at all costs. For me, it's about getting these people to realise you've got to think about the people side of your business. And guess what? do that and all its manifestations, the task will actually follow on.
Yeah.
But there's a blind spot there, I sometimes think.
There is, isn't it? And it's relationships are so important, aren't they? And I go back to that's how you build the trust. And guess what? People then will run through walls for you if you build that trust, and if they think, well, actually, you're there for them. What is it they say in the Simon Sinek, isn't it? Leaders that eat last, and he often talks about the armed forces and how they're brothers in arms, and how they'll die for their leader, and why is that? And it's because they build those relationships. It's because they role model that behaviour. It's because they build that trust.
Yeah.
And as a consequence of that, actually, I will work for you. And then in the modern day workplace, guess what? I will stay 10 minutes late. I will stay 20 minutes late because we've built that trust, we've built that relationship. And then it goes back to alignment then of what the organisation is trying to achieve. And I think when you get into larger organisations, sometimes people think, well, little old me, I'm just a cog in a wheel. What am I contributing? And that's where appraisals are really important, isn't it? Because if as an organisation that's what you're trying to achieve, well then what is your role within it and how are you contributing to it? So what I used to do with the team when I was a marketing and MPD director, every month I'd bring each of the departments together and I would make no apology of consistently talking about our strategic aim, what it is that we're trying to achieve. Because again, and I think some leaders at board level think, well, everyone knows what. No, they don't. They don't. And actually, sometimes you need to remind them, and you need to remind them and remind them. So we always used to kick off what it is that we're trying to achieve, and then I'd ask each department, how is it that you're contributing towards that strategic aim? And then actually, because you're doing that in nutrition and you're doing that in R&D, how can you as marketeers now take that fantastic development and market it to our customers? And constantly doing that meant that they felt that they were contributing, but also that they were contributing not only for their department, for another department as well. And then they're all alignment by objective. They're all contributing to the overarching company goal.
It's like working towards an overall objective together as a big team.
Yeah, and it goes back to NASA, doesn't it? What is
it?
The janitor at NASA, and what is it you're doing? I'm putting
a man in the moon.
Not man in the
and
moon.
it's a great quote. It's a great quote.
Yeah.
You know, we're sort of chatting about today. I just as you're speaking, I'm casting my mind back to when I first came into the world of work. You're just a young man. You're just a young woman. I'm aging by the minute. Going back, have you seen a change in leadership and the environment in which leaders operate in your short life? Go back to 20 years.
Yes. Well, post-COVID, I guess, really accelerated, didn't it? The whole working from home, flexi working, so on and so forth, and I think people have really struggled with it, absolutely at leadership level as well. I know when I deliver some training online now, people feel like they're being micromanaged more than ever, even though they're working at home. So they have to check in every hour. Yeah. They have to. I think the team dynamics change. The culture inevitably changes as well. You're trying to create this culture of we're all working together, we're working for the common goal, and people are working. And I've had some organisations say, well, you know what, John, if I'm going to let people work from home, well, then I might as well get people in the Philippines to do this job. They can do it at a fraction of the price. So I think leaders are really grappling with that and what is the best way to approach it. And I suppose it's no coincidence that some organisations now are saying, actually, we need people back in the office. And I think there's opportunities, isn't there, to learn in the office when you're sat with a more experienced person.
I think
but also opportunities to solve problems really quickly. I just heard you say that on the phone. We had an example of that, and Sue dealt with it really well. Just go and speak to Sue; she'll be able to tell you. If you're sat at home in your bedroom, it's really difficult to get that dynamic. Don't get me wrong; I think there's some advantages of working from home. I think from a cost-saving point of view, some people will say actually I'm much more efficient working from home because I don't get into the small tittle-tattle and the distractions. I get that as well. But in Americanism, they talk about the water cooler moments, and I think they do exist in businesses. Certainly, from my experience, when you're in the coffee, you're grabbing a coffee in the kitchen.
Photocopier.
The photocopier. Did you manage to? And have you spoke to? And then actually, you get someone in finance, someone in marketing, someone in, and they're all talking and they solve a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're right. Hybrid, home working. all of these type of areas. I think we're much more participative in our leadership style as well. There is an area that I have seen a big difference in over the 300 years that I've been in business, and I'm conscious. Time is always not on our side, but a final area I'm interested in hearing from you is the whole area of marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
In our last episode, I basically said that we as a company are good at what we do. I stand by that. What we're maybe not good at what we do is getting the message out there, telling people we're good at what we do. I'm interested. You mentioned that you're a marketing guru at the beginning. What does good marketing look like nowadays? And could you tell us a little bit, because I'm out the loop, could you tell us a little bit about the marketing course that you're trying to pull together for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So you said, what does good marketing look like? Marketing has never changed in so much as it's about understanding your target audience. It's about understanding what problem you're solving of that target audience. People fall into the trap sometimes of talking about features and benefits as opposed to actually understanding, again, the problem that they're solving. They also fall into the trap of trying to talk to everybody as opposed to talking to your target audience. So the course that I'm putting together, Tom, is really trying to help people put together a marketing plan. And within that, we need to understand your objectives.
Yep.
What is it you're trying to achieve? We want more sales. Okay, but let's put some kind of some measurables on that. What do you want to increase your sales by over what time period? Smart objectives, so that actually we can measure them. So what is it you're trying to achieve? Who is it that you're talking to? Don't try and talk to everybody. Who is it? So we consider that. Then now you know who you're talking to. How do you want to position yourself? So what is it that makes you unique? What is it that makes you different? How are you solving their problems? And then only at that point do we then start to think about actually how do we talk to our target audience in a language that they understand. And then once you've done all of that work, then you can start to think about your tactics. So maybe it is social media, maybe it's not.
Right, okay.
Maybe it's direct selling, maybe it's going to trade shows, maybe it's going to networking events, whatever that may be. Once you've done all of that, then you can start to say, actually, how do we start to measure the success? What I see a lot of now is, it's not lazy marketing, but people jump straight to social. What I need to do is get on social media, tell everybody what I'm doing. Social media might be one of your channels. Before you jump on there, think about who you're talking to and how you want to position your business. So the plan that I've put together for you guys takes you through step by step. And actually, to go full loop all the way back to the start of our discussion, if you bring different businesses together, then actually you start to create a plan where people cross-pollinate ideas. And also an opportunity to ask each other as well about their own businesses. Yeah. What is it that makes you unique? What is it that makes you unique? And that kind of extrapolate some of the key USPs, if you like.
And so this particular course, is it directed at small businesses of any size?
Yeah, I think if you to do that with small businesses, then you'd have a selection of small businesses in there. If you to do that with a larger business, then actually it becomes more of a workshop type experience, really, which you might not do with their existing marketing team, or they may not have a marketing team and you're bringing other people together. But ultimately, the end of it is to give them a workable plan, something tangible to go away with. Because again, you go to some of these workshops and actually walk away with maybe some scribbled notes. Yeah. For me, it's giving them a format that they can fill in, that they can go where and then they can implement. Yeah. And even better, Denise, all come back, right, let's make this accountable, because there's nothing worse than doing a session and then nobody's making you accountable for delivering on those things.
No, I mean, we're really excited that you're actually running that through Asset Training as well. Yeah. And that course is going to be available on our brand new website, which is going to be live next week. And we're calling it Your Marketing Roadmap. So
fantastic.
All the details will be on there.
And we're looking forward definitely looking forward to rolling it out.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to be running that up and down the country in different locations. So
great stuff.
Yeah.
as I said, time flies when you're enjoying yourself. It also flies by when you're the driver of a train, as we used to say watching Chigley. I would like to formally, John, thank you very much for coming along and being our first guest.
Oh,
one of many, but
I'm sure
it will take something very special to beat what you've done today.
it's good standing.
It's great working with you. It's good seeing you under a different guise. Good luck with the marketing course. But that really is all from this particular episode. We will be back with you in the next week or so with some more guests and some interesting topics in the field of leadership. Don't forget to subscribe. That's very important to us. But thank you for your attention and see you again.